As far as, I guess, WWE, you eventually, wound up there after Global.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
They called my house. I was kind of surprised. I had sent the tape to Sergeant Slaughter, who was looking at talent at that time, and they called my house and brought me in for a tryout. And that's what Brett pulled me aside and said, "This is what you got to do. You got to work this way and that way." And I went out and did it. And they brought me back to another TV taping down in Augusta, Georgia, or something. And I walked in the back room with my bags, and Vince just met me at the door and said, "Let's take a walk." We walked around the whole arena.
This is the first time you met Vince?
Yeah.
Okay.
He said, "Let's take a walk." He said, "I like your style. I think we can do something with you." And they put that Friar Ferguson or Monk gimmick on me, and I never really got an answer from Vince, about that, but he was going through some legal problems at that time. He was going to federal court or something.
It was like 92.
Yeah. And I guess he got some calls the first Monday Night Raw that the Monk ever aired for churches and Catholic churches or whatever, and said, "Man, that's just horrible." And it got back to me that he was worried about the bad publicity and just ended it. Said he called me at home and said, "We're not going to run with that character at all." Took care of me, paid me for 2 or 3 months to stay home, paid me every week.
Right.
Check come every week. I'll give him credit for that. And then they brought me back, and they had me out in Connecticut there for about 2 days, and they got this library of stuff they were going through. They had a pizza delivery guy, and they had a handyman with half my ass crack showing. And then they finally came up with the Booger character, and it was originally supposed to have a big mask. It was supposed to be like a gargoyle thing, kind of like Vader was. And their production company, their crew or whatever they called it, they had like a full library of stuff. It was very impressive. And I went home with drawings and everything. I said, "Hey, this thing might work." And then they called me back and said that Vince thinks it looks too much like Vader. He doesn't want to do it. So they brought me back without the mask. And I think it was kind of flat after that because it never took off. It wasn't a good character for me.
The Booger gimmick you're talking about?
Yeah, it didn't work.
All right. As far as when you first went up there, you had a tryout match?
Yeah.
Who did you work? Do you remember?
I believe I wrestled Barry Horowitz.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I wrestled Barry.
How was that match?
It was good. Barry was a good worker. He knew what his job was.
Right.
He knew how to make people look good, and in the right opportunity, he probably could have got a push somewhere. And he was a good wrestler.
How would you compare the locker room, in WCW to WWF?
I would have to say it was a lot more cutthroat in WWF. We were all on guaranteed money down in WCW, so there wasn't really. The management was piss poor. They were fighting more than the boys were.
Right.
In WCW. WWF, it was kind of the guys were all bucking to be on the pay-per-views and on WrestleMania, and there was little cliques that took care of this and took care of that, and I don't think that it was ever. I never seen any real. Well, you don't much anymore anyway, because I'm thinking old school again. But there was never any closeness there. There was always a little bit of always a cutthroat. I'm not complaining, but I believe I got a really shit deal when I went in there. The character stunk. They had seen me as the Friar Ferguson, then I come back 3 months later as something else. And my first 3 months on the road, I wrestled Tito, who was a good wrestler, but he was retiring. He told me the first night I wrestled him, "I don't want to take any bumps, nothing. I'm not going to get hurt."
Huh.
So now I'm trying to be an aggressive heel with this character, and it was rotten.
Were you able to go up to any of the agents at all? And
he was trying to become an agent, so they didn't want to listen to me.
Right.
And then I got Kamala the month after that. So, you got 200-300-pound guys, and they're waddling around, and that one stunk.
Right.
So I had 2 bad months in a row. And then after that, I can't remember, I got somebody else my 3rd month, and it wasn't very good again. So I got off to a bad start there. I didn't like the character, and my first 3 months were rotten.
Right.
So you can see yourself starting to get phased out quick. You can tell they're not going to do nothing with it. So it never got off to a good start.
Was Vince approachable where you could go talk to him at all, or?
Yeah, Vince was approachable. I never felt. I went to him a couple of times and questioned him. Is this thing got any life left to it or whatever? And he was good to talk to. I'm not saying he had an open door. I could run in and talk to him, but
right.
Yeah, if you said, "Hey, you got 5 minutes?" Yeah, he was good.
Right. What were your initial impressions of Vince when you first got to meet him? Was he larger than life character, or?
I think from not watching wrestling, I wasn't that wow.
Right.
I was more interested in trying to talk business to him. We took a walk and he said, it was his word, on everything.
Right.
If he said, "Yeah, I'm interested in hiring you," great. So when he approached me, I figured, well, this must be pretty good because if he didn't want me, he was going to send somebody else out and tell me,
Right.
you know, hey, it didn't work out or whatever, you know. But I didn't have any issues with Vince. I didn't have any. The only problem I had with Vince at the end was the agents, the Hebners and whoever else, George Steele, and there was one more.
George Scott.
No, it wasn't Scott. It
Finagler.
was. No, it was one more agent.
Lanza.
Maybe no. New Zealand guy. Tony Grea. They came to me after a TV meeting and said, Vince is going to switch that character babyface because the kids like saying booger. It was like they were getting away with swearing. So he said they were going to switch it babyface and get a little mileage out of it. I went back 3 weeks later to a TV and they told me it was done.
Huh. Wow.
So I don't know. I heard some rumors that some of the boys got to Vince and complained about me and stuff like that. And if that's true, that'll be, live with politics, I can live with that.
Do you know what some of the guys did? Or what they did?
I heard we were in Detroit one night wrestling at the Palace or someplace, and they had a monitor set up where they were showing, you could see the matches. And I made a comment about somebody who was wrestling, and I said, geez, their guys are really busting their nuts or something. Just joking.
Right.
Not thinking it would go any farther than that. And somebody ran with it and said, yeah, Booger's in there saying the guys are the shits or something, and that festers into being a big pissing contest. And in the long run, it did me a favor. I'd been wrestling 20 years, 7 years in Calgary. My body was all beat to hell. And my son is 6'3", 290, 15 years old. He's already been talked to by a couple of colleges. So when I wrapped up my WWF run, I did a few independent things here and there. But I went home and I've been watching him for 4 straight years now, and everything happens for a reason. I enjoy it.
Right, right.
That's why I don't take many shows anymore. I won't miss any of his high school events. I won't miss anything he does. That's my life now.
Does he want to get into the business too, or?
I hope he's smarter than that.
Right. I guess, what was the locker room like when you were in WWE? And who did you ride with?
I rode with Jeff Jarrett quite a bit. I rode with, was Mike Rotundo there, or did I ride with him mostly in WCW? Me and Mike crossed paths a lot. I don't know if I was with him then or not. Or I rode with the Samoans a lot.
Right.
I did a lot of traveling with the Samoans, Fuji.
Right.
I
Big
rode.
River.
Yeah.
Did you get to see any?
Oh yeah, they were pretty heavy stuff there too. Yokozuna, I was with, traveled with him a lot.
Right.
Yeah, I like the Samoans. We called it, what was it, Rikishi, we just called him Junior. He was a nice guy. I traveled with him a lot.
All right.
So yeah, mostly those guys.
Did you find the Booger gimmick ever to be humiliating? Ugh, I can't pronounce that word tonight.
Yeah, I think it was just. I think Vince was paying me, and he finally said, "Geez, we better get this guy in here to do something." And I just thought the gimmick was just dumb. It didn't mean nothing. It might have been funny as a babyface. And hell, I could have went out with boxes of Kleenexes or whatever and had fun with it, And basically, it could have been a bald Norman character is what it could have been. But as a heel character, it was just dumb. I didn't like it from day one, and I still don't like it.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.